Parshas Miketz, Shabbos Chanukah, Tavshin Ayin Daled. Big celebration here tonight. You know, so much has been made of the two Thanksgivings falling together. They fall out once every, it's pretty often, I think, it's once every 75,000 years or so. I think the last one was in 1880. The next one is approximately 77,000 years away. But when I was thinking about it, I mean, so much noise was made about it, and so many people wanted to celebrate in so many different ways that Thanksgiving of the secular calendar falls out on the Thanksgiving. For us, really, Chanukah is a Thanksgiving every year. That's when we take time to reflect, and it's time to thank HaKadosh Baruch Hu for many different things that we have. L'hodos u'lahalel. That's what part of the Chanukah celebration is, that l'hodos u'lahalel. So really, for us, for all of us here, it's Thanksgiving every year, Chanukah. This year, the calendar happens to work out in a way that it fell out in the day of the secular Thanksgiving. Famous Gemara Masechta Shabbos, Daf Chaf Aleph Amud Beis. The Gemara asks a question, My Chanukah. So we even have a question, what this question of My Chanukah means. But Rashi explains that My Chanukah means because of which nace was the Yom Tov of Chanukah Nikba. For which nace that happened during that time were we Nikba the Yom Tov of Chanukah? And the Gemara gives an answer, and many of you know this story, but the Gemara gives an answer that when the Yevonim came to the Heichal, they were mitame all the oil that was there. And then when the Chashmonaim were victorious, what happened? They checked, and they found only one flask of oil that still had the seal of the Kohen Gadol. And really we know that was only enough to burn for one day. What happened? A miracle. A nace happened that it burned for 8 days. And the Gemara says, the Gemara continues, that the next year, at that time, they were koveya this Yom Tov of Chanukah. They were koveya these days for Yomim Tovim B'Halel V'Hoidah. And that's our praise, that's our Thanksgiving, that's our Thanksgiving. That we were koveya for that reason, because the Ner is burnt for 8 days. We were koveya those days as the Yom Tov of Chanukah. It seems from here, if you're medayik in this Gemara, if you listen to what we just said, it seems from here that the main focus and the point of the Yevonim was, if you read this short story that the Gemara tells us, it seems that the main point of the Yevonim, when they came to the Heichal, is that the Yevonim, all they wanted was to be metama the oil. It seems that that was the focus of the Yevonim. Now, if you know the history, there was a war going on, and there was a battle that was going on. I'm talking about a battle in the battlefield. So what kind of strategy was this from the Yevonim? How exactly does the goal of going into the Heichal and being metame all the oil fit into the battle plans of a real war? How does that work? Right, to be metame the oil, to stop the lighting of menorah. Why? Why were the Yevonim so intent on stopping the lighting of the menorah? And on the other hand, it seems that the biggest emphasis for Klal Yisrael, when they did find the Pach Shemen, that was the biggest celebration for Klal Yisrael. We say that's why they were Koveya the Yom Tov. It looks like that the finding of the Pach Shemen and the menorah burning for the 8 days, that's why they were Koveya the Yom Tov of Chanukah. Why is that? What happened again? What happened to the victory of the war? Giborim biyad chaloshim, v'rabim biyad me'atim. What happened? All the strong people were fighting the weak people won. Many were fighting the few people won. Do you know how many people there were fighting that war? There were 12 Bnei Chashmonaim. 12 plus Elazar. There were 13 people fighting the entire Greek army. That's an unbelievable miracle. That's an unbelievable nace. And what? We were Kaveya, the Yontav of Chanukah, because we found a Pach Shemen. Okay, it's a wonderful thing. It's a beautiful thing. It's a miracle that it burned for 8 days. But what about the war? What about, didn't it totally overshadow this fact that that the oil burned for 8 days? So there's a Ramban. The Ramban is brought down, famous Ramban actually brought down by the Nesivos Shalom in his Sefer on Chanukah. The Ramban writes, at the beginning, he says, based on this, why was the beginning of Parshas Ba'aloischa, why is the Parsha of the Menorah written right after the Parsha Nesiim? We started laning this morning, first day of Chanukah, we started laning the Nesiim. We're going to lane it through all the 8 days of Chanukah. The last day of Chanukah, we're going to finish the Parsha. We're going to lane from 8 through 12 of the Nesiim. And right after that is Parshas Ba'aloischa, the Parsha about the Menorah. So the question is, why does the Parsha of Menorah come right after the Parsha of the Nesiim? So the Ramban answers, we answer that when Aaron HaKohen saw that the Chanukah Sanasiim, Aaron HaKohen saw the beautiful experience, the beautiful schus that the Nesiim had by the Chanukah Sanasiim, the Medrash Haggadah tells us that Aaron HaKohen had Chalishas Hadas, because Aaron HaKohen felt that he didn't have a part in the Chanukah Sanasiim. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu told Aaron HaKohen right then. HaKadosh Baruch Hu told Aaron HaKohen, Chayecha, you should just know, Hashem told Aaron HaKohen, Shelecha Godo Mishalahem. What you have is more than what the Nesiim have. Why? Sha'ata Madlik Umeiti Vesaneiros. Aaron HaKohen, you have a bigger schus, because you are going to light the menorah, Boiker V'erev. You're going to light the menorah. And that's the biggest chus. So why, the first question is, why Dafka, why is this a Nechama for Aaron? Why does that overshadow the Chanukah's Hanasiim? Why is that pacify Aaron HaKohen? Why is that any better? And why is the Hadlaka of the Menorah bigger than anything that the Nesiim did? So the Medrash tells us that the reason is because after the Churban Abayis, yes, they're having a Chanukah Hanasiim. There is a tremendous thing over there, but after the Churban of the Bayis, unfortunately, there will be no Karbanos. But the Hadlokas HaMenorah, the Medrash tells us the Hadlokas HaMenorah would stay. So right away, the Ramban continues to ask on this Medrash, has anybody ever seen, do you see Hadlokas? We all know that the Hadlokas HaMenorah of the Beis HaMikdash stopped also. So how was Aaron HaKohen told that for you, it's going to go l'doiros. This is going to be, there's always going to be this Hadlakas HaMenorah. Hadlakas HaMenorah was batel too. What is the nitzchias in Hadlakas HaMenorah? Frek the Ramban. He adds on to this question. So the Ramban answers, and this is not a Hasidic Sefer. The Ramban was not a Hasidic Sefer, right? The Ramban answers that it's the idea of the Hadlakas HaMenorah will always be continued in the generations. How? Through the Hadlakas Ner Chanukah. Even in Golus, even after the Churban, Hadlakas Ner Chanukah is a continuation of the Hadlaka in the Beis HaMikdash. So Nesivos Shalom tells us, he says that the Ramban puts the whole lighting of Ner Chanukah in a totally different perspective. He says that the lighting of the Ner Chanukah, it's not stam a mitzvah of lighting the Ner Chanukah. It's a perpetuation and a continuation of the light of the Beis HaMikdash. Whatever that light was in the Beis HaMikdash, it's continued by us through the Neres Chanukah. And really, if you think about it, it's the only thing we have left from the Beis HaMikdash. If that's the case, that the lighting and the light of the Ner Chanukah is a continuation from the Beis HaMikdash, we have nothing else from the Beis HaMikdash. The Ner Chanukah is l'doires. There's nothing else left, and that's something we have to hold on to. That's the only light that we're able to get in touch somehow with what was in the Beis HaMikdash. And that light has been a light through the long gullus. It's been a light for Klal Yisrael for almost 2,000 years. It's almost 2,000 years that we do not have the Beis HaMikdash, unfortunately. And that light is what keeps us going. That's how we get in touch with the Beis HaMikdash. And we see from here something very interesting, that the neshama of a yid, it seems, would be able to survive today somehow Without the Beis Hamikdash, we're able to survive. Without Karbonos, we're able to survive. We're somehow able to get by without that. But without the light of Menorah, we could not survive. HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave us this spark. He gave us this light, this way of seeing the light of the Beis Hamikdash to keep us going throughout the entire Golus. So the Yevonim knew, in answer to our question that we asked at the beginning, the Yevonim knew that although it's not a normal battle plan, you don't put plans of going somehow to get the oil in the Beis Hamikdash into a battle plan of a war. The Yevonim knew that it's not normal. But they knew the only way to take away the light of Klal Yisrael forever, the only Eitzah, you really want to defeat Klal Yisrael, go get the light of this menorah. Don't let Klal Yisrael light the menorah. Be metame all the oil, every bit of oil that they have in the Heichal. And that's why, on the other hand, when the war was won, and they were able to go back into the Beis Hamikdash, the Yeshua for us, yes, of course, it was unbelievable that we won the war. But what do we publicize in the Nes most? What does the Gemara talk about? What do we hold up that this was the Nes of Chanukah? The Yeshua was finding the Pach Shemen, the ability for us as Klal Yisrael to start that light again. So the answer that the Gemara gives, and what Rashi says to my Chanukah, is that they were Koveya the Yontif for the Nes of the Neros. My Chanukah means for what reason? What was the big reason that we were Koveya Chanukah? Which Nes? That's how Rashi explains the question of the Gemara there in Shabbos. My Chanukah. The answer is, even though winning the war was an exceptionally big Nes, and it was L'mayla min HaTeva, but the Iker Kiyum for Klal Yisrael, what did we come out with from Chanukah time there? We came out that we have this light. We have this light of Chanukah, and this light of Chanukah could light up every person's life and any darkness that you face. For 2,000 years, we're able to follow this light of Chanukah. But a person has to know that we have to use it. We can't sleep through all 8 days of Chanukah and be able to have this influence. I'll tell you just the word, I'll end with the word that I saw. We say that if a person lights the menorah, if it goes out, Zokukla, you don't have to go back and light the menorah again. Why not? You should have to have it lit, Pesume Nisa. So we say that the lighting alone, a person has to know that it comes to Chanukah, it's such a holy time, it's so light, we could do so much. And you say, oh, but I can't. No, you have to light it. You have to light the candle. You have to take away some of the darkness. Don't worry about what's going to happen tomorrow, the next day, next week, next year. Am I going to keep my Kabbalah? Am I going to be a better person? Kovsa, it's good enough. Just light it. If it goes out, you don't have to light it. That light alone, take away the darkness. Your job is to light it. So let's use this Shabbos Chanukah. Remember that Shabbos Chanukah is a double thing. It's Shabbos, it's Chanukah together. We'll have the Neres Shabbos. We'll have the Neres Chanukah. Remember how much good this light can do. How much darkness the light of Chanukah could take away. Let's use this Chanukah. Don't sleep through Chanukah. Chanukah is definitely not meant to be about vacation. It's not about donuts. It's definitely not about Black Friday. Even though this year we gave every yeshiva bacher and every child, everybody's off for Black Friday. But the bottom line is it's a short Black Friday. Shabbos is coming soon tomorrow. Remember, it's Shabbos Chanukah. That's the Iker. Let's take a hope that the light of Chanukah this year lights the way out of Golus for us.